Okay, Stephen, well, we've got this new Ofsted regime, and whenever I'm talking to governors about it, the common response is, this is it, this is the final straw, the demands are too great, we're going to walk, you won't be able to recruit any more governors, they're just making too many demands on us. How realistic is that, do you think?
I hope it's not true. I think if there is, I think probably is some truth in it, but I think it's a pity in many ways, and probably a lot is to do with presentations, it usually is with these things, because really the Ofsted regime is asking governors to do what they've always been required to do. I mean, certainly in legislative terms, since 1998, it's been stated that the governor's job is to ensure high standards for their schools, and Ofsted are finally getting round to looking at governors to see that's what they're doing, which they've not done in the past.
And particularly the challenge bit,
The challenge
which governors are always reluctant to do, has been a requirement for a long time.
Yes, I think probably the problem is that handled properly, it shouldn't make for more work for governments, but it probably makes for more uncomfortable work, because the focus really should be upon the challenge and getting the standards right and so on. And if it's not, then you're probably spending too much time on doing other things, maybe things which are really operational, or spending too long on policies. I think that's an issue too, but one which can be addressed. But nevertheless, a lot of these other things, in fact, are not quite so demanding, and we're volunteers. And I thought asking the difficult questions, providing the challenge, looking at the data, I think some people shy away from it. Unfortunately, the government's been talking for some time about trying to reduce government workload, so to concentrate on the main things. But, it's happening very, very slowly. I wouldn't say it hasn't happened at all. There's a reduction in the number of statutory policies that this produced most recently. Still a long way to go on that. And I think if that had been done first, it would have been a bit easier to get in the message about what you are doing. And I think governors are now seeing it. There's one thing piled on top of another, and that's a pity. But is this what you're finding? A lot of our governors actually walking, or is it just a problem?
Well, I'm not sure they are. And what I would say in defence of the current situation is that I've heard this many times before. Often when there's a new Ofsted, that's what people say, or when the last time teachers' contracts were reviewed and there was PPA time and all of that, and governors had to have another think about how they organise themselves, and reconstitution a few years ago, all of these sorts of events tend to provoke that reaction. That's it, that's the final straw, we're off. And actually they don't go by and large. But I don't know, I am beginning to wonder if this is the one event that might tip things over. But it's too early to say. What we do know is that for years and years and years, the average vacancy rate for governors across the country was 11%, something like that. And that was often certainly replicated in the authority that I worked in. And all that represented was just the natural turnover. It wasn't a gaping void. And that remained stable for at least 5 years worth of data that I saw. So I think we wait and see, actually.
It's a matter of who, isn't it? I can think of instances of very good governors giving up. I mean, it's usually more to it than just Ofsted, you use the expression, a last straw, and that might be. I mean, if there are some governors who are not comfortable really with providing a challenge to the school and being able to do the job of assess and know how the school is doing, well, one has to say, okay, let them go. But if you're actually going to be losing the good governors who are able to provide that, well, then that's another matter.
Well, some governors I know have said, well, this is Ofsted trying to achieve the government's aim of getting to smaller governing bodies. I'm not sure I go along with that, but...
No, I mean, also, it's kind of a funny way of going about it. I mean, the government does believe in smaller governing bodies, but it's not that passionate, we've done something about it, because why should it be? They're not paying them. So there might be a bit of belief that's the way it should be, but it's not, because there's any material advantage for them. And as I said at the beginning, I think a lot is in presentation, and the present head of Ofsted is a sort of, he can be quite a blunt character. He may be very charming as well, but he believes in speaking his mind, and a lot of people are feeling rather beleaguered by what he said. So it is put in that context of, it seems to be more stick than carrot.
Yes.
So then I'd like to see a bit more carrot put in for governors.
Yeah, definitely. But I think also you can argue that finally governors are being recognised for doing the job they need to do, as you were saying at the beginning. That's another way of looking at it. It's a more positive spin, isn't it? So yeah, finally, they've woken up. Governors exist, they've got a job to do, and we're going to check that they're doing it.
But wouldn't it be nice if there was more recognition? Because you're aware that governing bodies that might be under threat and might have to have reviews and maybe even be dismissed. But what about the ones who are doing really well? Yes, it's very nice to get an outstanding report and for governors to be complimented. I'm sure that would be a big kick for people, quite rightly. It's not very much, it's not very public recognition, and not actually as public as all being booted out. So you'd like to see something at the other end, so that you feel that there are prizes for those who come first, rather than just the public opprobrium for those who limp along when the race is finished.
Yes, indeed.